The first thing I saw that morning was a notification from my bank. A charge, large, unexpected, and not mine. My name is Sophie Reynolds, and the day I found out my family went on a luxury trip to Italy using my card was the day everything changed between us. At first, I thought it was a mistake because the amount didn't make sense. Flights, hotel reservations, multiple transactions, all within minutes. And the location? Rome. I stared at the screen, trying to process what I was seeing, because I hadn't booked any trip. I hadn't planned anything. I hadn't even taken time off work. So how? I opened the banking app, checked again, scrolled through every detail. Everything was real, confirmed, processed. And then one detail caught my attention. The booking name, Reynolds Family Reservation. My grip tightened around the phone. Because suddenly, this wasn't a mistake. This was intentional. I stood up slowly, mind racing, heart steady but heavy. There was only one explanation. Someone in my family used my card without asking, without telling me. And the more I thought about it, the more one name made sense. My dad. Because he had access. Because I trusted him. Because I never imagined he would use that trust like this. I called him immediately. The phone rang. Once. Twice. Then, "Hey, sophomore." His voice sounded normal. Relaxed. Too relaxed. "Did you use my card?" I asked. No greeting. No hesitation. A short pause. Then, "Yeah, I was going to tell you." My chest tightened. Not from anger. From disbelief. "You were going to tell me?" I repeated. "It was urgent," he said quickly. Flights were getting expensive, and I didn't want to miss the deal. Deal. That word landed wrong. Because this wasn't a purchase. This was a decision. One that involved my money, my account, my trust. "And you didn't think to ask me?" I said. Another pause. Longer this time. "I knew you'd understand," he replied. Understand. That word felt heavier than anything else. Because it wasn't just an excuse. It was an expectation. Like my approval was automatic. Like my boundaries didn't exist. "Where are you?" I asked. "At the airport," he said. "Boarding in about 20 minutes. The timing hit me instantly. This wasn't something I could stop easily. It was already happening. "You booked an entire family trip," I said slowly, using my card, "and didn't even think I should be there." Silence. Because that question didn't have a comfortable answer. "It was last minute," he said. "We didn't think you'd be able to come anyway." Didn't think. Didn't ask. Just decided. I felt something shift inside me. Not loud. Not explosive. Clear. Because in that moment, I realized something important. This wasn't just about money. This was about value and where I stood in their decisions. "You could have told me," I said, calm, controlled. "We're talking now?" he replied. And that's when I knew. He didn't see a problem. Not really. To him, this was normal, temporary, fixable later. But to me, this was something else entirely. Because trust, once used like this, doesn't return the same. "Enjoy your trip," I said. And before he could respond, I ended the call. I stood there for a moment, phone still in my hand, looking at the charges again. Flights, hotels, luxury bookings, all active, all confirmed, all mine, legally, technically, which meant one thing. I had control, and they didn't realize it yet. I walked back to my desk slowly, sat down, opened my laptop, because if they thought this was already done, they were wrong. And what I did next turned their dream trip into something they never expected. I didn't react immediately, not emotionally, because decisions made in anger are rarely precise. And what I needed was precision. I opened every booking detail: flights, hotel confirmations, transfers, reservations. Everything was connected to my card, my account, my authorization, which meant something very simple. Everything they had existed because of me and could disappear the same way. But I paused, because this wasn't just about canceling a trip. It was about understanding something deeper. Why they felt comfortable doing this, why my involvement was optional, and why my presence was unnecessary. I leaned back in my chair, thinking, not as a daughter, as someone observing a pattern. And the pattern was clear. I had always been the responsible one, the reliable one, the one who didn't say no, the one who understood. And over time, that became expectation, not appreciation, expectation, which meant one thing. If I didn't draw a line now, there would never be one. My phone buzzed. A message from my mom. "We just boarded. Thank you for helping your dad. This means a lot." I read it twice, because that sentence said everything. Not a question, not a check, a confirmation. They didn't think they did anything wrong. They thought I agreed. That was the moment the decision became easy, not emotional, logical. I opened the airline portal, entered the booking reference. All details appeared instantly. For tickets, business class, international, non-refundable, but cancelable. I hovered over the option, cancel reservation, paused, not because I doubted the action, because I understood the impact. Airports, boarding gates, expectations, and then disruption. I moved to the hotel bookings, luxury suite, full payment confirmed. Same option, cancel. Then the transfers, private transport, guided tours, dining reservations. Everything tied together. Everything reversible. I took a deep breath, because once I did this, there would be no pretending, no misunderstanding, no going back to normal. And maybe that was the point, because sometimes things need to break for truth to become clear. I didn't rush it. That was the difference. Anyone could react, but not everyone knows how to act at the right moment. I watched the time carefully, checked the flight status, boarding, final call, then departed. That meant one thing. They were in the air. No messages, no calls, no way to respond. A complete gap. And inside that gap, I had control. I opened the airline portal again, re-entered the booking details. Everything's still active. But now, timing mattered more than anything. If I canceled too early, they would know. If I canceled too late, they would land comfortably. I needed the exact point, where disruption becomes unavoidable. I checked the connecting flight, Rome arrival, transit window, hotel check-in time. Perfect, because inconvenience isn't impact. Disruption is. I moved through each booking again, slower this time, more deliberate. Flight segments, hotel reservations, transfers. Every confirmation felt like a thread, and I was holding all of them. My finger hovered again over the option, cancel reservation. But this time, I didn't hesitate. I started with the hotel. Click, confirm. A notification appeared instantly. Reservation canceled. Then the transfers. Click, confirm. Gone. Then the tours, the dining bookings, Every detail they had planned, removed. But the flights I saved for last, because flights aren't just logistics. They are structure. Without them, everything collapses. I waited, watched the clock, calculated the timing again. Then, finally, I selected all flight segments and pressed cancel. For a second, nothing happened. Then, confirmation. All tickets canceled. Silence filled the room. Not dramatic, not loud, just still. Because in that moment, everything shifted. They were still in the air. But when they landed, nothing would be waiting for them. No hotel, no transport, no plan. Just reality. I closed my laptop slowly. Not satisfied, not angry. Clear. Because this wasn't revenge driven by emotion. This was consequence. And what happened when they landed was something none of them were prepared for. The call came exactly when I expected it. Unknown international number. I let it ring once, twice, then answered. Sophie, what did you do? My father's voice, loud, uncontrolled, a contrast to the calm tone he had earlier. What do you mean? I asked, even, measured. Our bookings, everything's gone. Voices in the background, confusion, frustration. We landed, and there's no hotel, no transfer, nothing is showing up. I stayed quiet for a moment, not to provoke, to let reality settle. You used my card, I said calmly. You made decisions without asking me. That's not the point right now, he snapped. We're in a different country with no arrangements. Exactly. That was the point. It became the point the moment you decided I didn't need to be involved. I replied, silence. Short, sharp. This is not how you handle family, he said. That word again. Family. Used when convenient, ignored when necessary. Neither is using someone's financial access without consent. I responded, more silence. Different this time. Because now, he understood. Not just what happened. Why it happened. What are we supposed to do now? He asked. Tone shifting. Less authority. More uncertainty. I leaned back slightly. That's something you should have considered before making the booking, I said. No anger. No raised voice. Just clarity. And in that moment, the control they assumed they had disappeared completely. They didn't argue after that. Not because they agreed, but because they couldn't. Reality has a way of ending conversations quickly. They found a last-minute hotel. Expensive. Limited. Flights? More complicated. More costly. More inconvenient. Everything they avoided earlier became unavoidable. And for the first time, they experienced the weight of a decision they didn't fully think through. Days passed, minimal communication. Not silent, but distant, measured, careful, because something had changed. Not the relationship completely, but the dynamic. They no longer assumed. They paused. And that pause meant everything. Because respect doesn't come from explanation. It comes from experience. And sometimes experience is the only thing that truly changes behavior. When they returned, the conversation was different. Not confrontational, not emotional, structured. We should have asked, my father said. Direct, simple. No excuses, no justification, just acknowledgement. And that alone shifted everything, because the situation was never about punishment. It was about boundaries. And boundaries, once clearly established, don't need to be repeated. I didn't celebrate what happened. I didn't revisit it, because the goal was never control. It was clarity, and clarity had finally been achieved. Looking back now, that moment wasn't about a trip. It was about something deeper. Value, respect, consent, and the understanding that even within family, those things are not automatic. They are earned and protected